Welcome to our webinar. This is my third one today, so I've done several. So I want to make sure I got the right guy I'm with today. Make sure I'm talking to the right person. Wow, everybody, thank you for coming to our webinar tonight. I know people will be jumping on as we're speaking, so do us a favor if you can hear us and it's coming in loud and clear. Give us a thumbs up. If you are coming from a certain destination, which we all are, wherever you live, let us know where you are. Facebook likes it when we comment and engage in these conversations, and it helps us to know if we are talking to the right people in the right city about the right subject. So without further ado, I am Steve Rosenberg. I am a real estate investor, entrepreneur, and I am the Vice President of Investor Education for Mind Property Management. I can tell you today that the gentleman I have with me today, a very good friend of mine, is going to give some amazing information for everyone out there. Whether you live in the Bay Area or you are just an investor or aspiring investor, this guy has a wealth full of knowledge. So I would suggest, if you do not have a pen and paper yet, you should go get one, because the information you are going to learn from Bobby and from myself are very well going to help you, and quite possibly could help make decisions that will help you either be successful or could help you avoid some catastrophes in your real estate model. So both of us are very, very seasoned veterans, and I want to make sure that we are giving you all of our knowledge. And right now, we all know these are very unsettling and very nervous, scary times. I will just tell you from my experience of going through the 2008 recession, SARS, H1N1. Here in Houston, I went through Hurricane Ike. I went through Hurricane Harvey. I've been through several ups and downs and market corrections. This is okay to be nervous, and it's okay to be scared. What you do from this point, and the fact that you're committing to making some decisions and trying to educate yourself to be better, is really what will change your future. Focusing on the past is not going to get you anywhere. Focusing on what you can do moving forward is what's going to take. Now, I was told by one of my mentors that if you don't have a goal that makes you nervous to say it out loud, your goal is not big enough. So some people really, really swing for the fences. And in times like this, they get a little bit nervous because maybe they think they swung too far, and maybe they've overextended, or maybe they didn't think things through. So our goal today is to talk about that. We're going to talk about several things, and I would like for you to just have an open mind and be willing to commit to a path that you choose when this is over, and do something. Now, obviously, you like me, we're all here to learn. I learn from people leaving comments. I learn from people like Bobby. I learn from everybody. But I could tell you that I am no stranger to fear and disaster and problems. My career in the real estate industry started after 9/11 as an airline pilot. And during that time, you know, just like now, people were desperately grappling with a very serious situation like we are today. And we are all going to be going through some very uncertain times in the next couple months. And the key with doing that is to making sure that you have a course and a plan of action. Now, over the last 20 years, I have been focusing on my course and my plan of action. My goal today is to help you bypass those 20 years that it took me to figure this out. So in the next 30 to 45 minutes, Bobby and myself are going to help give you the framework to how to think differently and really how to look at your investments. And if you are watching this and you're in the Bay Area, which is where Bobby's from and where Mind Property Management is from, we are going to help you understand what is going on in the market. Because unfortunately, just like after the days of 9/11, just like after the 2008 recession, just like hurricanes or any natural disaster, there are going to be some people that do not have businesses to go back to. There are going to be people that have residents that move out of their properties. They're going to have some hard times ahead of them. Now, we can look at these as ways to educate ourselves to be better, or we can look at these as failures and get out of this business, which I do not think is the right way to handle this. I think the way to handle this is to take this as feedback, to understand how to correct our business models so that we can be stronger. Because the one thing I will tell you is that these market corrections, and I think that's what this is, you can wrap anything around it, a pandemic, a recession, a hurricane. This is the market correcting itself. Now, no one ever thought that a virus or a flu would be the cause of it, but there's always something. Markets normally go in 7-year cycles. This was a cycle, right? And I think that what you need to do is understand that the best way to get out of these types of things and to become better is to make sure that you have a plan, that you have a team, and that you realize that you level up and you use the people around you, your resources. I mean, I didn't know Bobby until a couple months ago, but I could tell you after knowing him and becoming friends with him, he is someone that I would call and say, hey, Bobby, what do you think I should do if I had something that I thought he was doing? And that's what having the relationships and having partnerships and understanding leverage. The one thing I've learned is that trying to do something yourself is never a successful recipe. And I don't know anyone, and Bobby, I don't know if you do, I don't know anyone that has ever done something, had a very, very successful business model or a successful strategy, and they said, I did everything alone. Nobody helped me. That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist in the real world, right? Maybe in books and things like that, but in the real world, people have teams, right, and they have assets, and they use those teams and assets, whether it's insurance, whether it's management companies, realtors, title companies. These are the assets that you have to use, and this is what it takes to make that happen. If you have a rental property and you're trying to do it alone, that is probably not the best use of your time. It's probably not the best use of your skill set. It's probably not best use of anything except maybe buying the asset and having a property management company like Mind or anyone else manage that asset for you. And you spending your time being the thinker and let other people spend their time being the doer. So I can tell you my experience, I have made a lot of mistakes, I'm sure, as Bobby has. And, you know, one of the things that I've learned is I didn't know what was around the next corner. So like this pandemic, like a lot of people, nobody knows what's coming, right? The 20 years ago when I started this after 9/11, I had no idea what was in store for me. And it was very scary because I didn't have anyone to guide me. And I didn't even know that this existed. Had I done this today, I probably could have sped it up to maybe 7 years, 5 years at the same thing that I accomplished in 20, by knowing that all you have to do is reach out to other people and utilize other people's resources of leverage. Because the one thing I have learned personally is that our two most limiting factors are time and money. And I would say knowledge, actually. So we'll say 3. Money is just made up in our mind because money is actually easy to get. So the limiting factor that you think of money, it actually isn't. But mentally, a lot of us have a hard time discussing money and dealing with money.
Yep.
When you are trying to grow and you're trying to scale, the real restriction you have is how many hours in the day and your level of knowledge. Maybe if you own 3 properties, you can do something yourself. When you want to get to 300 properties, you're probably going to come up with a limit of knowledge of how to get funds and how to get scalability. And you'll probably run out of hours in the day if you're doing it yourself. Yep. So real quick, let me just tell you what we're going to talk about today so that you know that I'm not just rambling here. I actually have a plan. What we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about real estate in the Bay Area before the pandemic even happened. So I want to hear from Bobby to get his perception of what was he thinking leading up to this. And now I want to talk about the real estate now and, you know, what you can do to prepare for things like this, you know, and look, we're going to come out of the backside pretty soon. And the last thing I want to know is when we do come out of the backside, what is it that we can expect? Is this going to be an up market, a down market? The Bay Area, as we all know, is kind of in its own ecosystem universe. It doesn't really play by the rules of the rest of the Western hemisphere, I would say, of the world. It's kind of got its own life of its own, and it doesn't really abide by all the different rules. So I'm curious Bobby's perspective. So again, if this is something that you want to learn, I would stay tuned in because you're going to get a lot of education from Bobby. I know I'm going to get a lot. I would recommend you get a pen and paper because this is the time that you learn. And if you're not here to learn, then you're really wasting your time. So this is what we're doing here. I am here. Bobby's here. We do this for free to help you. So make sure that you take advantage of what we're learning. And even if you're not in the Bay Area, you can use this anywhere because Bobby doesn't just operate in the Bay Area. He's all over the country. So Bobby, thank you, first of all, for coming on the show. I appreciate your time. Tell everyone just a little bit about yourself and like kind of who you are.
Sure. So Steve, first of all, thank you for having me, and thanks. Good afternoon, everybody on the Mastermind Facebook group. So a great group you have, and I'm obviously a member, and so thank you for doing that. I'm, I've been in the Valley now for about the Silicon Valley area for about almost 30 years. So I've seen a lot of ups and downs. I've seen a lot of the dot-coms, and I want to just echo what you had said earlier, which is take the emotion out of the cycle. It's just another cycle, right? We have seen the first real estate recession in 2000, 2007, 2008. We have seen 9/11. So it's just another cycle that we are going through. What was happening in the Bay Area, I started to notice that there were pockets where we were still getting multiple offers, but by and large, even back in January, December, the multiple offers had really reduced. So I knew that the market was kind of shifting. But the unemployment was at record lows. Companies were still hiring. They were announcing plans to expand. And if for local folks, companies like Facebook, Google, Apple were expanding their footprint and growing, which meant that they needed to hire more people. But I noticed that it was starting to slow down a little bit as far as the rate of appreciation. Bay Area's always been known for no cash flow, very low cap rates, and but it was known for appreciation. So that's what I was noticing prior to March.
So let me ask you this: could you? And I know this is tough because I know there's so many different nuances of the Bay Area. There's rich, ultra rich, other atmosphere rich, and all in between, and there's different price points with everything, which if you live in anywhere else besides the Bay Area, it would your head would explode counting the zeros attached to some of these properties. What kind of returns can you put a number? Was there a general number of, if I bought a property in the Bay Area, what kind of appreciation could I expect? Like, can you quantify that at all for people?
Great question. And so I'm going to break up that number into two parts. One is appreciation, and then the other is cash flow. So it's always made up of appreciation and cash flow. So my take is that the Bay Area was still getting double-digit returns. You could buy a home and very easily get 10%, 11% appreciation annually. And we've been experiencing that since 2009. So, I hear a lot of folks talk about, we're going to have a 10% correction and so on and so forth. And to me, that's not really a huge correction because since 2009, we've been going up double-digit numbers. So what if we have, even a 20% correction wouldn't shock me. Now, there was a big demand for housing, mainly because this is where, even though there has been some migration out of this area, but this is where there's a lot of wealth created as well. So, you have even companies like Zoom, for example, thousands of employees that became instantaneous millionaires. But before they got their shares vested, they were still making, you know, $100,000 or $150,000. They couldn't buy real estate. They couldn't buy their home.
Sure.
But what the first thing that they do is when they get rich is they go and put in an offer on that dream home that they've always wanted. So those are the homes that are in the 1.5 to 2.5, $3 million range.
And what
So
what
that,
size is that house? So people understand age and size. Would you say?
yeah. So those in San Francisco, if you're talking about San Francisco, those are 1,300 square foot homes, maybe 1,500 square foot homes. So not very big.
Age?
Uh,
How
they're probably rehab. They're probably rehabbed by one
Okay.
of my meetup rehabbers, you know,
Yeah.
that's out there, you know, buying up these. But it's probably rehabbed. It's probably not brand new, but it's in a
It's
pocket of San Francisco that's highly desirable, with a bunch of restaurants and so on. So
so
yeah.
let me ask you this based on the pre situation, and this is I'm gonna ask another question after that, but based on the pre situation, what from the prior downturn that we had, right? We'll just say the 2008, you know,
Mhm,
what
mhm.
kind of takeaways have you gotten leading up to this, kind of going, you know what, I've seen this before. What advice would you give to people? Because there's going to be another one, right? When you
Yeah,
look,
yeah,
there will be another one in 5 to 7 years or some cycle of time. The
sure,
data clearly shows this, but
sure.
what information from experience that you have could people take away?
Yeah. So very good. So you know, I want to say about 18 years ago, I was working for a tech company in Santa Clara, and one day I was walking, and we had cubicles back then. The open office concept wasn't quite there. Everybody still had cubicles, and I walked by this one girl's cubicle, and there was a sticker, and it said, "Dear God, please give me another dot-com bubble. This time I promise not to piss it away." So um, the lesson I learned from 2008 is, you know, I want to be prepared for the next crisis.
Right.
I of course, I was not. I didn't expect the crisis to be an epidemic and kill a bunch of people. That was not you know what I had in mind for a crisis. But I
Right.
knew that in 2008, I bought some real estate in 2008, 9, 10. I saw the recovery, and the only regret that I had was, why didn't I back up the truck and buy more? Why didn't I leverage OPM? Because I didn't leverage OPM. I thought I had to buy it on my own credit. I had to
Right.
buy it with my own money. You know, it was disgraceful to go and borrow money from somebody. But now
And that was
knowing
just
what I
this. That was just. Oh, I said that was like the story you told yourself, right? That
exactly
was the mantra that was in your mind. It wasn't reality, but
was,
that's what you thought. So that's
yeah,
what your reality was, right?
yeah,
Because I think a
was my
lot of
reality.
people struggle with that. They're like, I don't have any money.
Yeah,
The reality is you don't need any money. You just have to think differently, and you got to be resourceful if you have zero cash. But you know,
exactly.
you don't need to pay cash for this. And
Yeah.
let me ask you this, real quick. Post 2008, which we're going to see right now, right? There were more, there was more wealth created after the 2008, you know, recession and all that. I firmly believe that after this is over, within the next 12 months, there will be more wealth created by people taking advantage and buying real estate than probably the last 10 years or 8 years.
Absolutely.
Do you agree with that, or am I way
Absolutely.
off on that?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And in fact, you know, as I sit, you know, in shelter in place, I'm planning every day. I take, you know, wake up, I still take my shower, I get ready every day. And instead of going to an office, I'm at home and I'm planning what the next 5, 10, 15 years are going to be when we come out of this crisis. Where are we going to be positioned? How am I going to align my team? So again, to your point earlier, I'm not in this alone. I have a team. I'm on Zoom calls with my team every day. And what we're doing is, there are two things we're doing: offense and defense. On the defense, it is what are we doing to minimize the damage from the out, you know, the what's going on right now? How do we minimize the damage? But the offense is what are we doing to get dry powder ready? What are the markets that we're going to look at? What kind of assets are we going to look at as we move forward when we come out of this crisis, right? So to your point, you know, that's what I'm doing every day.
You know, it's interesting. I've talked to so many people. We had David Green, you know, David from Bigger Pockets. He was on a podcast with us last night. We were talking to him, and he had some great wisdom. We were talking about this very thing, and it was like, basically the thing that I got out of it, which I'm a firm believer is it's like you win the football game by playing it in your head first, right? Martial arts, it's all in your head first. Same thing here. You're basically running the plays of what you're going to do in your head. The execution of it is really the last piece of the puzzle. You already know in your head, you've got the pathways built, the teams, the strategy. You already envision holding the trophy up saying that I won before you've even entered the contest. And that I think is what a lot of people, I think that the misconception is people think I have to do it first and then I'll figure out what I want once I'm going down the highway. And that's that's backwards. Do you agree or?
I totally agree. Like this time that we're getting to be at home and be in a quiet place, maybe in a corner in a house or you know, a den or a basement, like use this time to plan, to draw out your playbook, take the playbook, sketch out what it's going to look like, but more than sketching it out, put an action plan together. For example, one of the things that I'm doing is I pick up the phone and I call people that I haven't had a chance to talk to in a long time. I make connections. In fact, today I was on a call with a realtor and just talking to her about what she's going to do when we all get out of this kind of a shelter in place. But what are her listings going to look like? What's her approach to marketing? What are appraisals going to be like? Inspections and so on and so forth. But for the viewers that are sort of on the fence or on the sidelines, like this is the time. This is the best time for you to take action. For you to,
You got to be sharpening that axe to start swinging it. And I'm curious. You know, the people watching on Facebook, I'm just curious if anyone else kind of has that hesitation or if they're kind of getting ready, building out their playbook or what. I'm curious what the general consensus, because, you know, I'm in a little bubble. I'm in a room, you know, you know, and I talk to other people like yourself, like all these other people, and they're telling me what they're doing, but I don't know if that's what the general public is doing. The people that are still trying to figure this out and they're thinking, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to begin. I don't know what the environment is. And so let me ask you, Bobby, you're very connected. You do a lot of meetups in the Bay Area. You've got a large network. What are you hearing from the investor community about the Bay Area and even other areas as far as like, what's the consensus?
Yeah. So I'm going to say there are two types of folks from the ones that I'm talking to in my meetup on a regular basis. There's folks that are anxious and nervous. And remember, like what you just said, Steve, and I wholeheartedly agree with what you just said, which is it's okay to be anxious. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be scared. We all have sleepless nights, but keep in mind that eventually we're going to come out of this. We don't know what date exactly, but we will come out of this. I have investors that were maybe over leveraged. For example, I have members of my meetup that are regular rehabbers, fix and flip guys, and they're nervous. And I'm like, why are you nervous? You've made money for the past, say, 6 years, 5 years, 10 years, 1 year, 2 years, whatever. So what if you have 1 year or a couple of flips, you don't make the kind of money that you thought you were going to make? So what? Does every stock that you buy, does every stock go up? No, you have some stocks that don't work out. You just got to plan for that risk. You know, I have a gentleman who does a lot of flips, and he was extremely nervous, you know, and he's borrowed money, and I'm like, but where are your savings? Where's your rainy day fund? And in fact, I'm a private money lender, and I talk to my borrowers. Some of them are well capitalized. They won't miss any payments. The sale or the delay could last 3-4 months. They wouldn't miss a beat. A couple others haven't planned for that. So what I want to say to the folks that are on the Facebook group, you know, plan for that. But more than plan, take action. Use this time, because now you're going to get some discounts. You're going to be able to get some properties that you thought you could never get before. And if your financial situation hasn't changed that much, then use this time to pick up some deals. That's what I'm looking for.
You know, it's interesting you say that. And I think a lot of times people that are nervous, it's really ego, right? And it's all, a lot of it, I shouldn't say it's not just ego. A lot of it is we're always afraid of the what if. And the reality is the what if is never as bad as we think it to be, right? Our brains are triggered to protect ourselves. So it goes to worst case scenario, which is to protect us, right? So we always think worst case scenario.
Correct.
And if you think of all the times we've ever thought of worst case scenario of something, it never really happens. But like I've had conversations with people, and I go, tell me, what is the worst thing that could happen? They're like, I could lose this house and lose all the money I have. I go, okay, that's the worst thing. What's the best thing that could happen? The best thing that happened is I could sell this property and make all my money. I go, okay, so we know the boundaries now.
Yeah.
Probably going to lay somewhere in between.
Yep.
Is the sun going to come up tomorrow? Yes. Do you have the knowledge that you had to get you to where you are today? Yes. Will you be able to do this again? Like, or does this mean you could never, do you go into flipper's hell? Like, do you go to jail and you don't get to do this because now you made a mistake, so nobody will talk to you? I'm like, no. The reality is you may have to shore up some capital again. You probably will learn a lesson that you should not be over leveraged in your deals, that you probably won't do this again. You may have to lose a leg in this situation and cut off a property that is not leveraged correctly. And I guarantee you, you will not make that mistake again. So this is a lesson that we're all going to learn. And you're going to come back and go, you know what? I learned that lesson. It cost me $100,000, but I made $2 million for the next 30 years because of it. So Is it really the worst case? Like the worst case is not that bad.
Yeah.
And so when you put it in that perspective, it's like, huh. And I tell them, I said, you know, you and I were talking, which I'd like to get your thoughts, let people know. We were talking about the Section 8, right? Yep. And Section 8 is this dirty, ugly word that a lot of people don't like to talk about. And some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people are don't understand it. You had mentioned that this is a very good opportunity during this time. So I think, and I want to get your take on the Section 8 situation, but what a lot of people don't realize is when you're under pressure like this in a situation, it compels you and it motivates you to make some new decisions. And those new decisions are things that you wouldn't normally do. You know, some of the best businesses are born out of crisis, like Uber, Airbnb, those came out of the 2008 recession, right?
Yep.
My question is, what new businesses are being created right now that we don't know about? That normally, if business is booming and business is good, they go, I got this idea. And they go, that's a stupid idea. We're not taking a risk on that. Well, now they're going, you know what? We got nothing else to lose. Maybe we should give it a shot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how this happens. So I think thinking of new ways to do business and readjusting your focus and your vision, this is key. I'm curious if anyone else has thought of a new business idea, because if you do, I'd like to talk to you. But I'd like to know if anyone watching, if you have thought of businesses that are being born. I'll tell you one business that I never thought of that someone told me is they're probably going to come out with more voice operated elevators. So you're not touching the buttons. Right? Didn't think about that. The other one is they're going to come out with apps for food menus.
Yep.
And you're probably not going to get real menus anymore. You'll probably just download it on your phone and you'll do that. So maybe that's a business model. Those are mine, patented if anyone says it. But tell everyone about the Section 8 that you talked about, because I thought that was a very interesting position. I never even thought about that myself.
Yeah. So several years ago at my meetup, I had a gentleman do a presentation. I was curious about Section 8. You know, like you, Steve, I'd heard of Section 8, but I never imagined ever wanting to invest in Section 8, right? But I met this gentleman, and he mentioned that he owned about 80 to 90, or his company owned about 80 to 90 Section 8 properties. So I invited him to come and speak at my meetup. Long story short, we became friends, and I actually became his first outside investor. They had 3 partners, and I became the first outside investor because I got intrigued by the fact that you own a property. It's usually in a sort of a C minus neighborhood.
Yeah.
You buy it really inexpensively, and the government says, you know what, we want to put a deserving family in there. We're going to pay. The government is going to pay the rent, most of the rent, and so you don't have to chase the rent. You know, but one of the biggest challenges for a lot of landlords is just chasing rent. So they took that risk away from the asset. So I'm like, you know what, this on paper, this makes a lot of sense. So I did an experiment, and then we became really good friends, and we grew. So now we're at about 600 doors. I'm part of the company. I've become a part, you know, they're in a business development person, and you know, I helped kind of with their technology and so on and so forth. But Section 8 is now, there hasn't been any communication from the Section 8 housing authorities. We operate mainly in Kansas City, St. Louis, Memphis, Cleveland, and Milwaukee. None of the housing authorities have come to us and said there's going to be delays or we won't pay you. In fact, just the opposite, right? They want these people to stay in their homes, right? So the checks are coming. No delays there. Some of the processing time, because even the housing authorities were impacted, right? So the caseworkers, for example, had to work from home and so on and so forth.
Sure.
But that program has not been impacted. And as you and I were talking, and I'm doing some more research on the Section 8 program. As you know, now we have 24% unemployment. At the end of the day, who's going to house these people if they lose their private? You know, for now, you know, there's no evictions and so on and so forth, and we have a little bit of a breathing room for the tenants. There's a little bit of a breathing room, but let's say that breathing room at some point it's going to be not practical for the evictions to be held, to not be held forever. So where are these people going to go? They'll have to go into government programs. So then again, the Section 8 program has to be bolstered. It has to be funded even more. So I'm expecting that a big chunk of that 2.3 or maybe 3 trillion by the end of all this, some of that's going to go into the housing program. So that's where we operate in the Midwest, and you know, it's barely impacted.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because I had never really thought about the fact that, you know, I know that normally in markets like these, when they contract, right, normally the A type properties, the upper level, people start scaling down. You know, I got into a mobile home park fund with a bunch of other investors, and they're paying dividends, and they're like, yeah, we're actually filling them up, you know, and it's because that's the bottom of the compression spring, right? Everyone's going down, you know, it ends up at that level. Yeah. Which, if you're the investor and it's a large fund and they've got the teams to run it, it's a great, you know, asset class to produce.
Yep.
But it's the same thing with the Section 8. And so you think about that, and I don't know if you know Joe Asamoah. I did a podcast with him on the Real Estate Rookie Show on Bigger Pockets, and he's very big into that in DC. And he was like, you know, he had some great points, and I was like, interesting. Now, you know, he was saying, you know, he's had residents in there for 7, 8, 10, 20 years, you know. The one thing I'll say though is that, and we both agreed that is a business model, right?
Yes.
You can't just go ahead and say, I'm going to do Section 8 and go down that path. Like, I mean, do you agree? You have to set that up correctly, and you have to be intentionally focused on understanding the dynamics of what it takes to be successful. Because we've done Section 8, and I've done a lot of it in the past in Houston.
Yep.
You've got to understand that each model and entity, they have their different nuances and different ways, and they're just, it's a different niche, but it's also a different model that you have to have.
Yeah, so you're 100% right. There's you know, the paperwork involved and the backlog, and you have, instead of dealing directly with the tenant, you're dealing with the housing authority, and there's extra paperwork involved. So our headquarters are in Kansas City, and everybody on our team has been has been associated with. Some of them have actually come out of, some of our employees in our leasing and our property management team have actually come out of the Section 8 program. They were former residents in Section 8 homes. So they're very familiar with the paperwork, the leasing process, the inspection process, the voucher programs, and so on. So yes, it's a slightly different animal. So you do need to be trained on it. You do need to be very familiar with it. And like you said, it's not something that you just casually pick up and say, you know what, I'm going to go become a Section 8 landlord. That's not how it works. You got to study up on it. You got to know which cities have enough vouchers, which cities have enough programs. You have to also realize that in many Section 8 programs, the landlord is responsible for, let's say, the utilities. You know, a lot of people, when they run their Excel spreadsheets, they forget stuff like that.
Yeah.
But our whole team is ingrained. Our customer service, our leasing agents, our handyman. We have 17 employees, and they're taking care of all these properties and the tenants. But you know, we have the software and the back office operations, the accounting operations, all set up to deal with Section 8. So yes, it is a deliberate decision that you have to make, and it cannot be taken lightly.
So let me see. Let's talk about, we're pushed out the backside, right? And one thing I'll say is, you know, I get a lot of investors that, not a lot. I get some investors that ask me for advice, and I'll give them, you know, I'll find out what their situation is, and I'll give them some advice, and they're like, yeah, I'm not doing this again, right? This is real estate isn't for me. It's not what I thought it would be. I got ripped off, or I lost money, or I over leveraged, and you know, a lot of it is blame, excuse, and denial, right? They're blaming everyone. They're not taking accountability that maybe they didn't do their numbers right. And one of the things I tell them, that someone taught me this one time, is, you know, if you go and eat Italian food and eat a bad meal, do you never eat Italian food again in your life?
Yeah.
Or maybe you don't eat at that restaurant again,
yeah.
but you're going to eat again, and you'll probably eat Italian food at some point in your life again.
Yeah.
So if you buy a bad deal, or you're in a bad deal, or a bad situation or partnership, do you just take the whole thing of real estate and say, I'm not eating again? Or do you go, you know what? Like a bad meal, it'll pass. It'll be gone. It'll be a memory. I mean, let's talk about 2008, right? 2008, I remember clear as day that it was like the world was ending. We were going off of a cliff. Banks were shutting down. This was, quote unquote, unprecedented, never in history. Everything in life will always be different as a result, right? I mean, the world, the sky was upside down. When you look at that now, it is a tiny blip on a chart. And you're like, that looks pretty small for what I remember, this horrific, life-changing, world-altering event that we went through. So when I see people telling me that this is unprecedented, life will never go back to how it was, I just go back to 2008, and I go, you know, maybe it was worse. You know, everyone has a different analogy or something that they're accounting for, but I just think to myself, that was pretty bad back then. And it was almost like a memory that people don't even remember it. Now it's like, yeah, it was a bad time. But you and I were in that, right? We were dealing with that, and it was a completely different perception of it then. So to come out of this on the backside, right? And again, there's going to be some people that are very, very successful as a result of this. They understand team. They get a
Yep.
management company to help them control the asset. They're buying deals. They're doing what they focus on.
Yep.
Do you think that this will go back to normal, or do you think that some of this trauma will last forever?
You know, the memories will last for a long time, and maybe not forever, but this is going to go back to normal, right? I mean, we know that just, you know, you and I'm you know, in my mid 50s, so I've seen since I've seen at least 5 or 6 of these crises, right? These major crises. So it's temporary. It's going to go back to normal. You know, the other thing I think about is there's $3 trillion that's going to be pumped into the economy somehow, whether it goes to the deserving or not. You know, most of it's going to. You know, I'm a little cynical, and I think it's, you know, the rich are going to get richer, but some of it's going to trickle down to the people
Sure.
that actually deserve it. Um, at the end of the day, there's going to be money that's going to come into the economy, uh, and real estate is generally a hedge against inflation. So I believe that with all this oversupply of capital, real estate will actually accelerate as far as asset value. The purchasing power may go down, but the asset value will go up. Um, so in my opinion, you know, this is, you know, like we said, prepare, put your plan together, make those phone calls, figure out what kind of asset you want to buy. If you want to start out with a single family home, you know, your website has so much great inventory. Talk to the advisors there. You know, if you don't like property management, get mine to do your property management. That's what I do. So I bought homes in Kansas City before I met my partners. I liked the Kansas City market. I had actually been buying in those neighborhoods myself, and I had a great property manager who helped me out. And to this day, I own some properties there on my own, and I still have the same property management company. Now, you know, they sent out an update saying, hey, you know, we're this is where we are on collections, and maybe next month it's going to be slower. And I'm like, you know, that's fine. I've made money for 6, 7, 8 years. So what if there's 3 or 4 months or 5 months of a little hiccup? It's not going to kill me. But I'm never going to sell those properties because that's my retirement plan, and I know that we'll come out of it. The mortgage is going to stay the same over time. The rents may take they may take a little bit of a hit right now. I may have to even reduce the rent a little bit, but inflation and all that will help me keep that asset performing.
I couldn't agree more, man. And this is such a long game. You know, a lot of people, I think the challenge that a lot of us have is we don't understand how long this game really is of investing. And this is not a short play. The only people that win are the ones who sit back, that can actually put this on a cruise control model,
Yep.
run it like a business, which to me, the definition of a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that runs without you. So that means you're not doing anything and you have people and systems doing that. So you had mentioned, I'm curious your thoughts, because we do give people the opportunity they want to strategize with me or someone from the team. We give them that ability, right? We don't charge them. We want to help them. I'm an investor. I don't need to manage your property to help give you advice, right? I mean, that's how you are. That's how most people that are successful talk to other successful people and say, what should I do? How can you help me? Right? Because that's, to me, that is what this is about, right? So what is your thoughts on team and building a team? And if you were giving advice to me 20 years ago, what would you tell me about team?
You know, the find the most successful real estate investor in your network, right? Maybe you're loosely connected to them. Build the A team that you can. Like, find the A players and network with them. You know, in my case, there was a gentleman that I really respected, and he needed a website. He had a horrible website, but I knew that I needed to get in his network. I needed to learn from him. So there were 2 instances in which what I did was I reached out to him and I said, listen, I'll build your website for free. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yep, I'll help you. I'll build it for you. You know, that's what one of my skills was. So we went in and we started to, you know, as he got to know me, he started to ask me to add more features. And long story short, I learned a lot from him. The second one was I was an investor actually in a mobile home park, and they were shorthanded on an asset manager, and they had 4 properties in the Midwest. And I said, I'll volunteer to be your asset manager. You don't need to pay me. And that's how I learned how to manage remotely 4 mobile home parks. But the idea was that you know, is to network with the people that you respect. The most important thing is to network with people that are ethical and that are intelligent, that they have high degree of intelligence and they have very high ethical standards. One of the things that I've learned is in real estate, you know, there can be some shady people out there, you know, like Wall Street.
Unfortunately, there are.
Yeah, there are. So I hear stories every now and then. I feel bad. Figure out a way to check their ethical standards. Do checks, ask for recommendations, and say, hey, do you know so and so? I'm about to invest with them. What kind of a person are they? What kind of a team are they? So check their ethical standards, but also check their intelligence, their real estate IQ, and just work with those types of people.
And you know, it's so funny. I mean, now with social media these days, you can pretty much, you can find out if someone's full of it. And you know, my thing is, and this is, you know, I put this up on the screen because I really, the fact that Mind gives us the ability as a team to be able to talk to people. And, you know, Mind really wants to be the thought leader, whether we manage the asset or not. They want to make sure that they're helping them, because the 2 co-founders, Doug and Colin, they're investors. They buy properties. They bought a bunch of properties, 17,000, I believe was the number, with their prior company. So they really want to help, which is one of the reasons, you know, we are here as a team. You know, they are giving strategy sessions away. They're giving deals. They bought a software, investment software, Home Union. They give access to that for free. And I mean, to me, I wish I could have had these conversations with a Steve or with a Bobby or with someone to really, I wish somebody would have said, like, Steve, what is your goals? Why are you doing this? Let's have a conversation. And I think that's the main thing that a lot of us are missing as far as how to build the strategy. And I'm willing to take some questions after if anyone on Facebook does, but you know, something that I learned, and you know, one of the biggest challenges is investing is understanding our big picture and our why. And so for those of you that are watching, just think about this for a second. Imagine yourself that knows nothing about real estate or knows nothing about the Bay Area, right? And you want to buy from the Bay Area. Imagine the ability to sit in your chair at your desk, make a phone call, have a strategy session to define your goals and define how you're going to achieve those goals for free with me or someone from the team. After you have that conversation, you're able to get access to a software that shows all the deals, and you can help identify which of these goals actually will get you via a strategy and what properties actually will get you there. After that, you're able to buy the property, close on it, then you get the make-ready rehab done, you get a resident put in the property, you get it rented, you get money wired directly to your bank account, and you've never, ever left your desk. That to me is the definition of an investor. You don't leave your desk. You sit at your table, you make deals, which is the best use of your time, because as we said, knowledge and time are the only things that we have that are our limit. And you're using the team. And Bobby, I'm sure you're with 600 plus properties. I have properties that I have never seen in the past probably 5 to 10 years. I have not seen them. I know what streets they're on, but other than that, I don't know, because a true investment property is a inanimate object that is giving me a return just like a stock. And so what I try to do is I try to explain to investors, you have to look at real estate that way. And you look at it from a team concept. I don't know any investor, and I don't know if you do, Bobby. I don't know anyone that's done it and said, I did it all on my own, like I said earlier. I mean, do you know anyone that's done that?
I don't.
I don't either. And
I mean, if they're a mom and, just they own their, even then they haven't done it on their own. They had to have help from either a lender or an insurance person or a handyman or a contractor. They didn't do it alone.
absolutely, absolutely. And the key here is that one of the things you got to realize is you've got to use the resources of people that are offering it. Like it's not very often that you get someone like me that says, hey, I'll help you for free. Just click talkwithstevr.com and you'll get access, right? I mean, this is not a common thing. Now, if you're not serious about it, then I would say don't do it, because you're just wasting everyone's time, which I'm not sure why you'd be on the webinar anyways. But if you want to learn, it doesn't mean you need to buy something, but this is how you swing the golf club to become a good golfer, right? This is how you understand the dynamics of how do people like Bobby and I think? What is it we do on a daily basis that gets us to be where we're at on a continual basis? This is what I think you need to learn. And these are the things that I think you need to understand how to do these things, because they don't teach these they teach them at Bobby's meetups, right? You go to Bobby's meetups in the Bay Area. If you're not in the Bay Area, you can't do that. And so these are some of the things that we want to help. And again, hopefully you will be able to take action because you've made the decision. Whether it's the Bay Area, whether you want to talk to Bobby, we'll get you in touch with Bobby. We will get you to where you want to go. But it really, honestly, starts with you making the commitment to do something, right? You can only sit and watch webinars for so long. At some point, you've got to jump in the game and actually do something, because right now, deals are about to go on sale. And if you are not mentally prepared and you are not mentally educated and your skills are not sharpened, the odds of you getting successful outcomes are slim to none. This is the time that you do your homework. This is the time you have your questions, right? So that you know what is a good deal, what is a bad deal, what's going on. This is when success is made, not when you have money in your hand and now you go, I think I'll give Bobby a call. I think I'll give Steve a call. That's not when you do it. And so I know, because I did that. I was one of those people that I never asked for help and I didn't know that it existed. And like I said, I probably could have saved at least 10 to 12 years off of my time by using smarter people than myself that already knew and had been down that path. And that's kind of what we're doing today. So, if you're interested in having a conversation, please go ahead and click on the link. I'm happy to chat with you. Happy to have the team chat with you. We can get you in touch with the software, but do something. Like I said, even if it's not with me, go direct. Bobby, if somebody wants to get a hold of you directly, how would they do that?
The best way to get hold of me is through my email, which is really simple. It's Bobby, Bobby, at bayflip.com. So Bobby at bayflip.com.
Easy. Look at that. That's easy, man. And I have been to your meetups. I've actually, been a guest speaker at them, and a lot of education, man. And again, this is what we do, right? This is what investors do. Despite what you may think, most investors give their time and they network. They say the more hands you shake, the more money you make, right? Yep. The bigger networker you are, the bigger your sphere of influence is, the more people you rub elbows with, the more successful you'll be. So this is the key to being successful, in my opinion. I could, maybe I'm way off. I don't know. So far it's proved pretty good for me, but if you want to be successful and you want to do something, click and type this in, talktostevr.com. We'll get you in touch with Bobby. I don't think we have any questions. If anybody has a question, feel free to put it in the Facebook group. Either Bobby or myself are happy to answer, or if you don't want to do it directly, you feel free to just click, you can send us a message and we're happy to help you that way. Bobby, any closing words you got here?
Steve, what I would say is that, look, to the folks that are watching, take this time, like Steve said, to kind of put a concrete plan together, and you won't be disappointed. But take action, find the right, what I call real estate friends, and just ask people like Steve and myself for pointers and advice. And if we can help you kind of straighten out that zigzag line, that road that you're on, if we can help you just kind of straighten it out just a little bit, we've done our part. So yeah, reach out to us.
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, whether you take action or not, I'll be honest, it's not going to change my life, right? I'm not going to, I've already done the hard licks. I've done all this, right? I'm here to help. Bobby's here to help. If you don't want the help, it's totally fine. I get it. Maybe you don't think you're ready, but it all starts with a step, and you've got to be committed to taking that step. And the step is not you doing it yourself. The step is understanding the sooner you build that team and you get the ability to grow and scale off of the shoulders of other people, the faster you'll reach your goal. So even if it's not me or Bobby, educate yourself. Go on places like Bigger Pockets is an amazing platform that Bobby and I both know. They've got a ton of education, right? This is what you want to do. There's so many people that give away their time for free to help. If you don't take advantage of it and you're in a situation like a lot of people are going to be in very soon, it's kind of your fault at that point, because you are choosing to not take action and you're choosing to go a certain path. And again, this is what I hope you don't do. I hope you learn, and hopefully this helped you, and it helped me understand a lot more about the Bay Area. The one thing I got out of this is maybe revisiting Section 8, because again, that is a definite model that needs to be revisited. Yeah. So Bobby, I first of all, let me just thank you so much for your time today. I know that you've got a lot going on, like we all do. I mean, we had to get dressed up in our work pajamas, right? We had to change out of our home pajamas for work day, right? So yep. Big day. Yep. But again, Bobby, thank you so much. For everyone watching, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have comments or opinions, throw them in there. I'm happy to converse with you. I'm sure Bobby is as well. And we'll be back next week. We've got another great webinar with talking about going virtual in the property management business and how to do that. So that'll be a great episode. So for everyone watching, thank you very much. On behalf of Bobby and myself, we will catch you next time. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Steve. All right.
Bye-bye.